Good day, everyone. Today, I want to talk to you about a powerful and sensitive topic, the causes of addictive behaviors. Addiction does not start in one day. It silently grows, often from pain, pressure, and unresolved struggles inside a person. Many people think addiction is only about drugs, alcohol, or gambling. But addiction can be anything that controls your life. Social media, food, gaming, shopping, even unhealthy relationships. The real danger is not only in the habit itself, but in why the habit began. One of the biggest causes of addiction is emotional pain. Many people turn to addictive behaviors to escape stress, trauma, loneliness, or failure. When someone doesn't know how to handle their pain, they look for something to numb it. At first, it feels like relief, but over time, it becomes a prison. Another major cause is peer pressure and environment. The people you surround yourself with have a powerful influence over your choices. When you grow up or live in an environment where harmful behaviors are normal, it becomes easy to follow that same path without even realizing it. There is also the issue of low self-esteem and lack of purpose. When people don't believe in themselves or don't see value in their future, they may look for temporary pleasure instead of long-term success. Addiction often fills the space where confidence and purpose should be. Let us not forget the role of mental health challenges, such as depression and anxiety. When these conditions are untreated, people may self-medicate through addictive habits just to feel normal for a moment. Lastly, lack of awareness and poor coping skills play a big role. If a person is never taught healthy ways to deal with stress, anger, or disappointment, they will likely develop unhealthy ones. The truth is this: addiction is not a moral failure. It is often a response to pain, pressure, and brokenness. But the good news is, the same way it develops, it can also be overcome through support, self-discovery, discipline, and purpose. If you control your mind, your habits will follow. And when your habits change, your life changes. Thank you. Emotional pain and trauma are among the most significant factors that lead individuals into addictive behaviors, often acting as the hidden driving force behind what might seem like a simple habit or choice. Everyone experiences pain in life: loss, rejection, failure, neglect, or abuse. But how a person responds to that pain can vary greatly. For some, these experiences become too heavy to bear, and the mind seeks a way to numb, escape, or temporarily forget the hurt. Addictive behaviors often emerge as a way to cope with feelings that are overwhelming, confusing, or even shameful. A young adult who has experienced neglect may turn to alcohol, drugs, or social media to create a sense of comfort or belonging that they didn't receive elsewhere. An individual carrying unresolved trauma may find themselves trapped in cycles of compulsive behavior simply because it offers a momentary escape from unbearable emotions. Trauma does not always have to be extreme or catastrophic to lead to addiction. Even subtle experiences, such as being constantly criticized, feeling unloved by family, or living in a chaotic environment, can accumulate over time and create a sense of emptiness. In many cases, people are not equipped with the tools to process these emotions healthily. Society often teaches us to hide pain, to stay strong, or to push feelings aside, which only compounds the problem. Without healthy outlets or coping strategies, addictive behaviors become an alternative mechanism for survival. They act almost like a temporary shield, numbing anxiety, sadness, anger, or fear, and creating a sense of relief, even if it is short-lived. Moreover, emotional pain can distort self-perception. People who are traumatized often internalize negative messages about themselves. They may feel unworthy, broken, or incapable of achieving happiness. This internalized pain can drive them toward behaviors that temporarily reinforce a sense of control or pleasure, even if those behaviors are destructive. A person who struggles with feelings of inadequacy may binge on food, gambling, or substances as a form of reward or validation, not realizing that the behavior is masking deeper issues that remain unaddressed. Addiction, in this sense, becomes not just a habit, but a form of emotional survival, a coping mechanism that fills a gap left by unresolved trauma. The connection between trauma and addiction is also complicated by the body's physiological response to stress. Emotional pain activates the brain's reward pathways, which are closely linked to pleasure and relief. Addictive behaviors hijack these pathways, providing a temporary escape that feels like comfort or even relief from suffering. Over time, the brain begins to associate the addictive behavior with coping and reward, creating a cycle that is difficult to break. This is why individuals who are experiencing high levels of emotional pain often struggle to stop the addictive behavior, even when they recognize its harm. The behavior feels like the only solution, the only way to feel something other than emptiness or distress. In addition, emotional pain and trauma can create a sense of isolation. People often feel that no one else understands what they are going through, which pushes them further into addictive behaviors that act as substitutes for connection or support. The more isolated they become, the stronger the addictive pattern grows, reinforcing the perception that the behavior is necessary for survival. Healing from trauma requires addressing both the emotional and behavioral patterns simultaneously, but the addictive behaviors often form long before any support is available, making early intervention and awareness critical. Peer pressure and the environment in which a person grows up or lives play a profound role in the development of addictive behaviors. Humans are social creatures, and from an early age, we are influenced by the people around us, family, friends, classmates, colleagues, and even the broader society. The environment shapes our beliefs, habits, and attitudes toward risk and reward, often in ways we may not consciously realize. When an individual is constantly exposed to peers or community members who engage in addictive behaviors, those behaviors can become normalized. What might have initially seemed unacceptable or harmful can gradually appear ordinary, and over time, the person may begin to adopt the same patterns, sometimes without fully understanding why. Peer pressure can manifest in subtle ways. A teenager may start smoking or drinking simply because their friends are doing it, not necessarily because they want to, but because of the desire to belong, to avoid ridicule, or to gain approval. Even adults are not immune. Social and professional networks can create expectations or unspoken norms that push individuals toward addictive habits. This pressure is often compounded by the human need for acceptance and connection. No one wants to feel like an outsider, and when a person perceives that engaging in a certain behavior will strengthen their social bonds or protect them from judgment, they may adopt it despite knowing the risks. Over time, what begins as a choice influenced by others can solidify into a dependency. The physical and emotional environment also plays a critical role. Living in a community where substance use, gambling, or other compulsive behaviors are common can increase the likelihood of developing addiction. Children who grow up in households where parents or older siblings abuse substances may learn early on that these behaviors are a standard way of coping with stress or expressing emotions. Similarly, neighborhoods where drugs or alcohol are easily accessible or where crime and violence are prevalent can normalize risky behaviors and make them seem unavoidable. The environment effectively sets the stage for addiction by shaping perceptions of what is acceptable, desirable, or inevitable. Moreover, peer influence can interact with other vulnerabilities, such as low self-esteem or mental health challenges, to accelerate the onset of addictive behaviors. A person who is already struggling with anxiety, depression, or feelings of inadequacy may be more susceptible to the influence of peers or their surroundings. If the social circle reinforces unhealthy coping mechanisms, the individual may adopt these behaviors as a way to manage stress or gain a sense of control. In many cases, peer pressure doesn't just encourage initial experimentation. It can create a cycle in which the behavior is repeated and eventually becomes compulsive. Modern society has added a new layer to this dynamic through digital environments. Social media, online communities, and virtual peer groups can exert pressure just as strongly as in-person interactions. Exposure to curated images, lifestyle trends, or the constant validation of risky behaviors online can normalize addictive patterns and make individuals feel that they must participate in order to fit in. The desire for approval, recognition, and belonging in these digital spaces can be just as powerful, if not more so, than traditional peer pressure, because it operates 24/7 and reaches people in the privacy of their own homes. Ultimately, the combination of peer influence and environmental factors creates a powerful framework in which addictive behaviors can flourish. The choices a person makes are rarely in isolation. They are shaped by the people they admire, the norms they observe, and the opportunities available in their surroundings. Understanding this influence is crucial because it highlights the importance of creating supportive environments and positive social networks, especially for young people and those at higher risk. Without intervention or guidance, the pull of peers and environment can lead to patterns that are difficult to escape, reinforcing the addictive behavior and making recovery a more complex challenge. Low self-esteem and a lack of purpose are among the most significant psychological factors that contribute to addictive behaviors. When individuals do not feel confident in themselves or believe they have little value in the world, they often struggle to find motivation and direction in life. This sense of inadequacy can create a vulnerability that makes addictive behaviors seem appealing, even if the person knows on some level that these habits are harmful. Addiction often arises as a way to compensate for feelings of worthlessness or to temporarily fill a void created by the absence of meaning or personal fulfillment. Without a sense of purpose, life can feel empty, monotonous, or overwhelming, and addictive behaviors can provide an illusory sense of control, excitement, or relief from these emotions. People with low self-esteem often struggle with self-doubt, negative self-talk, and a persistent feeling that they are not good enough. They may compare themselves unfavorably to others and feel trapped in a cycle of inadequacy. This internal struggle can become overwhelming, leading individuals to seek external sources of comfort or validation. Addictive behaviors, whether substance use, gambling, overeating, or excessive gaming, can temporarily mask these feelings by providing pleasure, distraction, or a false sense of achievement. The problem is that these behaviors do not address the underlying self-esteem issues. Instead, they create a short-term escape that can quickly turn to dependency. A lack of purpose compounds the problem. Purpose gives life direction, motivation, and a framework for setting goals and pursuing meaningful achievements. Without it, people may feel aimless and disconnected, as though their actions have no significance. This sense of emptiness can drive individuals toward behaviors that provide immediate gratification or excitement, even if those behaviors are harmful in the long run. For example, a person who feels their life lacks direction may turn to alcohol, drugs, or compulsive spending to fill the void. These behaviors temporarily distract from the discomfort of purposelessness, but they do not replace the deeper need for meaning or fulfillment. Over time, the dependency on these behaviors strengthens, and the individual may become trapped in a cycle where the behavior both alleviates and reinforces their sense of inadequacy. Low self-esteem and lack of purpose are often interconnected. When a person feels incapable or unworthy, they are less likely to pursue goals or engage in activities that provide meaning. Without the experience of achievement or progress, self-esteem can decline further, creating a feedback loop that makes addictive behaviors more attractive. In many cases, addiction becomes a coping mechanism for this emotional void, offering immediate gratification and a temporary sense of significance or reward. Addictive behaviors can also create an illusion of identity, allowing individuals to feel part of a social group or to assert control in ways they cannot in other areas of their lives. Social comparison and societal pressures can further exacerbate these issues. In a culture that often emphasizes success, appearance, and status, individuals with low self-esteem may feel even more inadequate. They may attempt to compensate for these feelings through addictive behaviors that promise pleasure, recognition, or temporary empowerment. The cycle becomes self-reinforcing. Low self-esteem and lack of purpose lead to addictive behavior, which may cause guilt, shame, or further isolation, which then deepens feelings of inadequacy and purposelessness. Breaking free from this cycle requires addressing both the addictive behavior and the underlying psychological factors. Building self-esteem, developing skills, discovering personal values, and finding meaningful goals are critical steps in reducing vulnerability to addiction. Until individuals feel valued, capable, and purposeful, addictive behaviors may continue to offer an appealing, though harmful, solution to the emptiness they experience. Mental health disorders are a critical and often overlooked factor in the development of addictive behaviors. Conditions such as depression, anxiety, bipolar disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and other psychological challenges can create intense emotional discomfort that individuals may struggle to manage. When the mind is in a constant state of stress, fear, or sadness, it naturally seeks ways to alleviate the pain. Addictive behaviors often emerge as a form of self-medication, providing temporary relief from overwhelming thoughts and feelings. While the relief is short-lived, it can feel essential to the person suffering, and over time, these behaviors can evolve into full-blown addictions. Depression, for instance, can make life feel heavy, monotonous, and devoid of joy. Individuals experiencing depression may feel hopeless, worthless, or disconnected from the people around them. Addictive behaviors can provide a temporary escape from these feelings, offering pleasure, distraction, or a sense of control when everything else feels uncontrollable. Alcohol, drugs, gambling, or even compulsive online activities may give the person brief moments of happiness or excitement, but these moments are fleeting and can ultimately worsen the mental health condition. Instead of addressing the root causes of depression, the addictive behavior amplifies the cycle of despair, making recovery more challenging. Anxiety disorders have a similar effect. Chronic worry, panic attacks, and constant tension can make daily life feel unbearable. People suffering from anxiety may turn to addictive behaviors to calm their nerves or to distract themselves from intrusive thoughts. Substances like alcohol or sedatives may provide temporary relief from panic, While repetitive behaviors such as gaming or shopping might offer a sense of control and predictability in a world that feels chaotic, unfortunately, the reliance on these behaviors creates a dependence that makes coping without them increasingly difficult. Over time, the individual becomes trapped in a cycle where the behavior alleviates anxiety temporarily, but ultimately contributes to its persistence or intensification. Other mental health conditions, such as bipolar disorder or post-traumatic stress disorder, also increase vulnerability to addiction. The mood swings in bipolar disorder, for example, may drive someone toward risky behaviors during periods of mania, while feelings of emptiness or hopelessness during depressive phases can push them towards substances or other compulsive habits. Individuals with PTSD may engage in addictive behaviors to avoid intrusive memories or the emotional pain associated with trauma, using these behaviors as a buffer against psychological distress. In all of these cases, the addiction serves as a coping mechanism, a way to manage emotions that feel unmanageable without any support or intervention. The link between mental health disorders and addiction is further complicated by stigma and lack of treatment. Many people who struggle with psychological disorders feel shame or fear judgment, which can prevent them from seeking help. Without access to proper mental health care, therapy, or support networks, the individual may rely more heavily on addictive behaviors to cope, reinforcing the dependency. This creates a dangerous cycle in which mental health challenges contribute to addiction, and addiction in turn exacerbates mental health issues. It is also important to recognize that the brain's neurochemistry plays a significant role in this process. Mental health disorders often involve imbalances in neurotransmitters that regulate mood, motivation, and reward. Addictive behaviors artificially stimulate these pathways, producing sensations of pleasure, relief, or euphoria that the brain may not naturally achieve due to the disorder. While this can provide temporary comfort, it strengthens the neural pathways associated with addiction, making it harder to break free and increasing the risk of long-term dependency. Ultimately, mental health disorders and addictive behaviors are deeply intertwined. Understanding this connection emphasizes the importance of addressing both the psychological condition and the behavior simultaneously. Without proper support, therapy, or treatment, the individual is likely to remain trapped in a cycle where the addiction serves as both a symptom and a temporary solution to ongoing mental health struggles. Poor coping skills are a major factor in the development and persistence of addictive behaviors. Life is full of challenges, stress, and unexpected events, and how individuals respond to these difficulties largely determines their emotional and psychological well-being. Those who lack healthy coping mechanisms often turn to addictive behaviors as a quick, albeit temporary, way to manage stress, anxiety, anger, or disappointment. Coping skills are essentially tools that help people navigate life's pressures without harming themselves or others, and when these tools are missing or underdeveloped, addiction becomes an attractive alternative because it provides immediate relief, even if it carries long-term consequences. Many people grow up in environments where healthy coping strategies are not modeled or encouraged. If a child observes family members responding to stress through substance use, emotional outbursts, avoidance, or other maladaptive behaviors, they may internalize these patterns as normal ways to handle difficulty. Over time, these early lessons solidify, making it more likely that the individual will adopt similar behaviors in adulthood. When faced with frustration, grief, or failure, they may instinctively turn to behaviors that provide instant comfort rather than addressing the root of the problem. The addictive behavior essentially becomes a learned shortcut, a way to cope with life when no other strategies seem available. The lack of coping skills can also manifest in emotional regulation difficulties. Individuals may struggle to process intense emotions such as sadness, anger, or fear. Instead of confronting and working through these feelings, they might suppress them or seek ways to numb their emotional pain. Addictive behaviors, whether drugs, alcohol, gambling, or compulsive digital engagement, offer a temporary escape, a way to avoid the discomfort of fully experiencing and processing these emotions. Unfortunately, this avoidance creates a cycle in which the underlying emotional issues remain unresolved, and the dependence on the addictive behavior grows stronger. Over time, the behavior becomes not just a choice, but a necessity, as the person feels incapable of handling stress without it. Stress management is another critical area where poor coping skills contribute to addiction. Life inevitably presents challenges, work pressure, financial difficulties, relationship conflicts, or health problems, and how a person responds determines whether they can adapt or become overwhelmed. People with weak coping strategies may perceive challenges as insurmountable, leading them to seek solace in behaviors that temporarily distract or comfort them. The addictive behavior can provide a false sense of control and relief, but it does nothing to resolve the underlying stressors. In many cases, the stress may even worsen as the behavior interferes with responsibilities, relationships, or health, creating a feedback loop where addiction and stress reinforce each other. Cognitive patterns also influence coping skills. Individuals who engage in self-critical thinking, catastrophizing, or perfectionism may feel unable to respond effectively to life's difficulties. Without the ability to reframe challenges, problem solve, or seek support, they may see addictive behaviors as the only way to regain a sense of stability or calm. This is particularly true when other coping mechanisms such as seeking social support, exercising, meditating, or engaging in constructive hobbies are unfamiliar, inaccessible, or undervalued. The absence of these healthy alternatives leaves addictive behaviors as the default solution. Cultural and social expectations can exacerbate the problem. In some societies, emotional expression, vulnerability, or seeking help is stigmatized, leaving individuals with few acceptable ways to cope with distress. Addictive behaviors become a hidden or socially tolerated outlet, giving the illusion of independence while masking the underlying need for support. Over time, the behavior becomes deeply ingrained, forming a pattern that is resistant to change without conscious effort, guidance, and the development of alternative coping skills. Ultimately, poor coping skills create a fertile ground for addiction by leaving individuals ill-equipped to handle life's pressures. Addictive behaviors offer immediate, though temporary, relief from stress, negative emotions, or difficult circumstances, but they fail to address the root causes of distress. Building healthy coping strategies, emotional awareness, and problem-solving abilities is essential to reduce vulnerability to addiction. Yet without these skills, people are left relying on behaviors that offer short-term comfort at the expense of long-term well-being. Easy access and curiosity are powerful drivers of addictive behaviors, often acting together to create a situation where experimentation can quickly lead to dependence. Human beings are naturally curious creatures, wired to explore and test boundaries, particularly during adolescence and early adulthood, when the desire for novelty and new experiences is strongest. Curiosity motivates learning, growth, and discovery, but it can also lead individuals into risky behaviors when combined with readily available substances or opportunities for compulsive activity. When addictive behaviors are easily accessible, whether through alcohol, drugs, gambling, online gaming, or other compulsive habits, curiosity can serve as the spark that ignites a pattern of experimentation, gradually progressing to regular use and potential addiction. The availability of addictive substances or activities plays a crucial role in shaping behavior. If drugs, alcohol, or other addictive tools are present in the home, community, or social circle, it becomes easier for individuals to experiment, often without fully understanding the consequences. A teenager growing up in a household where alcohol is freely consumed may feel less apprehensive about trying it themselves simply because it is normalized and accessible. Similarly, living in communities where gambling, prescription drugs, or online addictions are common can increase exposure and reduce perceived risk. The easier it is to obtain the substance or engage in the behavior, the more likely curiosity will lead to repeated experimentation, and the higher the risk of developing a dependency. Curiosity alone can also magnify the appeal of addictive behaviors. People naturally want to understand what others experience, what it feels like to break rules, or what sensations a new behavior might bring. This exploratory drive is often intensified during adolescence, a period characterized by identity formation, risk-taking, and social experimentation. The first encounter may feel exciting, novel, or pleasurable, and the brain begins to associate the addictive behavior with reward and stimulation. Over time, what started as innocent curiosity can evolve into regular use as the individual seeks to replicate the initial experience or explore its effects further. Technology and globalization have dramatically increased both access and exposure. The internet provides constant opportunities for exploration, from online gambling platforms to social media trends, video games, or content that glamorizes substance use. Easy access through digital means allows curiosity to be satisfied almost instantly, and the repetitive cycle of reward can quickly develop into habitual behavior. The combination of immediate availability and curiosity-driven exploration creates a potent environment for addiction, particularly when there is little supervision, guidance, or awareness of potential risks. Peer influence often reinforces the effects of curiosity and access. When friends, classmates, or online communities normalize experimentation, The individual may feel encouraged to try addictive behaviors simply to belong or to avoid missing out. Social validation can intensify the initial appeal of curiosity-driven behavior, creating a sense that experimentation is acceptable, rewarding, or even necessary. This social reinforcement can accelerate the transition from casual experimentation to habitual use, further entrenching the behavior as a coping mechanism, source of pleasure, or outlet for stress. Biologically, the brain responds to both novelty and reward, and easy access magnifies the likelihood that addictive behaviors will engage these pathways. The initial experimentation triggered by curiosity activates the brain's reward system, releasing dopamine and other neurotransmitters that produce pleasure and reinforcement. Repeated engagement strengthens neural pathways associated with reward and dependency, making the behavior increasingly difficult to resist. This neurological feedback loop, combined with environmental accessibility and social reinforcement, creates a scenario where curiosity, which initially seems harmless, can evolve into a serious addictive pattern. Ultimately, easy access and curiosity work hand in hand to create conditions ripe for addiction. Curiosity drives experimentation and exploration, while easy availability lowers barriers to trying substances or engaging in compulsive behaviors. Without guidance, awareness, or restrictions, this combination can quickly lead individuals down a path from initial experimentation to habitual and potentially harmful behaviors. Understanding this dynamic is crucial in preventing addiction, emphasizing the importance of responsible access education and strategies that channel curiosity towards safe and constructive outlets.